Welcome to the Chair special Reploid review. This is the Kick-Ass 2 discussion. And we're going to try the best we can to keep away from spoilers. So
that's going to be damned hard.
Not as much as you think. We just have to be careful not to mention major things. Like, there's a lot of stuff that's given away by previews and what you can read on anyway. So
that's true.
Just be careful not to say, you know, the endings and things like that.
Well, why don't we start with
what you think about
what
guy
you
did that one thing with those one people?
Well, actually, before we jump into the movie, there's a controversy that's floating around in the whole movie in general. And I was just going to say, you had some information on the controversy in general?
Yeah, it's pretty much Jim Carrey himself, because they stopped filming like a month after the Sandy Brook school shooting, and since Jim Carrey is a huge gun control activist, he pretty much said that he couldn't in good conscience continue supporting the movie because of the Sandy Brook thing, so he ended up, you know, denouncing his role in the movie, if you will. And then I found out from an interview that happened 2 days ago with Miller, who's the creator of Kick-Ass. He pretty much said that the reason why Jim Carrey couldn't support the movie anymore was because essentially a picture of him holding a gun laughing. And because of that, it was giving him a bad image, so he therefore denounced his, you know, support with the movie.
Even though he was totally behind Kick-Ass.
Yeah.
Since the first movie.
Yeah.
And requested personally to be on the second movie.
I think this is blown way out of proportion. I think that when you look at it in a different light, he is against guns in general.
Yep.
And without trying to spoil too much of the movie, yes, his character has a gun, but it's never loaded. There is a control aspect that he was allowed to put into his character.
Yeah.
Even though his character is a little deranged and messed up to begin with, he's still, in good conscience, will not kill somebody like that.
No, he won't.
And that was a part that was written into his character that probably had a lot to do with Jim Carrey in general. And what I think that he's going overboard about is that this picture basically makes him criminal. And even though it's completely out of context, that doesn't matter. It's just like you can see certain pictures from other movies that are taken out of context that just, whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just like with Christian Bale. He freaked out on set one time, and he was calling the camera crews stupid motherfuckers and this and that, and get your shit together. Are you fucking stupid? Go get the fuck out of here, you stupid fucking cunt. Like, he flipped the fuck out. But when they took it out of context, they made this big fucking thing, and it hurt his career in certain places. And he basically had to go on and apologize and be like, look, my day was shitty, I was way stressed out, I wasn't getting any sleep, I flipped out, it happens, I'm sorry. That dude didn't get fired, I've already talked with that dude, I apologize to him, please stop blowing this out of proportion. And it still went out of proportion. It was a big thing on YouTube, and they even aired it on the fucking local news stations.
Yeah.
And this Jim Carrey picture, it probably went around, and he probably had to be like, well, then fuck this movie. It was a mistake for me to even be a part of it. Because that could affect, I mean, you gotta understand, Jim Carrey does Disney movies.
Yeah.
Disney will drop you at the sign of a fucking, like, nothing. For nothing. No goddamn reason at all. Okay? They have these kid actors in Disney. And they're dumb enough to believe these kids are gonna stay kids. And they don't. They grow up, they become teenagers, they become sexualized, and they choose of their own accord to sell sex.
Yeah.
That happens. It's part of the industry. After a while, women reach a certain point in their careers, and not just women, men too. Proof of that exact thing. In Kick-Ass, this dude probably meant to bulk up the way he did, and the fact that he kept taking his shirt off at random intervals throughout the whole thing, like, oops! Like, there was a reason
Gotta get
for
changed.
That. Yeah.
There was a reason for it.
Got to work out
Probably
without
in
the
his
shirt on.
contract now.
And that's what I mean. Like, there's some of these child actors and whatnot. They grow up. They want to be looked at as this sexier adult version of themselves, and then Disney's like, nope, done.
No more you. Let's cultivate a new herd.
Your money is gone.
Well,
And they probably criminalized it. He probably had to speak out against it, and that's just that's the
I mean, I
reality
do
of the
admire him
actors.
in a sense, for that though, because with what he was doing, he was breaking his contract with the movie. Therefore, he could have easily got lawsuits, but he had to choose either stick with his gun control thing or promote the movie. So obviously, he was sticking with.
my biggest thing is though is that they should actually see the movie before they make any judgments.
Well,
Right,
this
but
this was way
people don't do
before
that.
the movie.
Yeah, remember?
The movie
People
wasn't
are
even
stupid.
launched yet.
Yeah.
They just released a picture of him with a gun and said, look at what he did. Look at him. Gun control this.
And at first, no one really knew about the picture thing. You know, the public media didn't, like the public, face didn't know about that. They just saw Jim Carrey denouncing the movie after saying how much he loved Kick-Ass. So that's why it became a huge thing, him being called a hypocrite. And
Sometimes you just gotta do something shitty for something you actually believe in, like
yeah,
that.
so I respect him for that.
I mean,
He
within
actually-
reason.
Well, yeah.
I mean, like this. I don't hate the guy.
And honestly, he did a good ass job in the movie, in my opinion.
Oh, he did a fucking
So, yeah.
awesome job. Hell, he had me fooled. I didn't even realize it was him until the fucking credits rolled.
Yeah, I'd say
That is how long it's been since I sat down and watched a Jim Carrey movie. The makeup they did on him changed him enough where I could not fucking tell it was him.
Yeah, I knew.
That's
I knew it was him. I
And,
knew it
and
was him.
I'm probably one of the bigger Jim Carrey fans out of the group sometimes.
I wouldn't
And
say so anymore.
Not
'cause
anymore.
If you couldn't I spot noticed him.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
before
I
he
was
even
sitting there,
turned
it's like-
around.
I mean,
was like,
I
that's
knew-
Jim Carrey.
I knew
I heard
regardless
his
'cause I was
voice. I knew it was
researching
him.
it, but
Yeah, I
it's been that
recognized
long
him
since
like
I
that.
watched one of his
No, it
movies,
wasn't.
and I've had so much
I
other
mean,
shit
he
that I've been
covered his
watching
voice,
lately, I
like,
forget
his
stuff.
voice is a little different than normal, but you could still tell.
Well, let's drop in the controversy. Yes, there's a controversy surrounding the movie. I think it's overblown. I think ignore it. Make your own decisions after you see the movie. Don't jump on the media's friggin' circus routine because it's a bunch of bullshit.
Yay,
So-
bandwagon!
Let's jump into the actual movie. We're here to review the movie. So, you wanted to know what each of us thought. How do you mean by that?
Actually, before we get into that, you said one of the characters in the movie was a direct
Okay,
tribute for
all right.
Batman.
In Kick-Ass,
There's a
there
character
are a
named...
lot of tributes to a lot of different people. There are tributes to Iron Man. Don't mention where. There are tributes to
Captain America.
To Captain America. There are tributes to Batman. Including,
multiple.
there's a background story.
Yep.
If anybody hasn't been able to put this together yet, Hit Girl is Robin.
Oh, no!
Okay,
Say it ain't so!
Bill, if that's the case, then what was Big Daddy?
Oh,
I really
think...
I really didn't know.
Dude, he was Spider-Man.
he's
What
Batman.
are you talking
Did you
about?
notice he even has the ears?
Yeah.
Yeah, he has
Yeah,
little
when you
pointy
see,
ear
you,
things.
you get to see the costume of Big Daddy throughout the course of the movie. You'll see
I,
flashes of it and whatnot, and you'll notice those ears, and even the belt was that big yellow
With the-
retarded-looking
with the
1960s,
BD on it.
and it even had those big stupid cylinder
Well, I was gonna
things.
say, when
around
I
it.
first saw the first Kick-Ass, right when I saw Big Daddy, I was
It's
like,
like the Batman.
He even makes a bigger joke out of himself on purpose. The original actor, Nicolas Cage, he
Yeah.
took it upon himself to speak like the 1960s
Oh, yeah.
Batman, because that was their generation. He grew up with that Batman. It's the one that, even
Honestly,
if it's
it
ridiculous...
made me like the character more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it added a ridiculousness
so
to
well,
it.
yeah.
He related it to something that we could all identify with, whether you like that or don't. There was a
tribute.
distinction there, and that show pushed Batman into the line. Without the 1960s Batman, no matter how much you hate it, this would not be possible. A lot of the Batman shit we have today just would not have happened that way.
You mentioned that I would recognize, that I knew the tribute.
You do.
But for some reason, that entire trip home,
Okay.
I'm thinking...
The bad guys. First off, there's a slight Wolverine type thing that happens in here. In the bad guys, there's this tiny little angry dude.
Oh,
Okay, yeah.
they called him the tumor.
He's referencing Puck. When Wolverine was with the Defenders.
Oh yeah, okay, I get
that's
it now.
Puck.
I didn't catch that at first.
There's
Okay.
a whole bunch of these that I was noticing that are going to be real hard for me to pull up. Just sitting here, like there was actually a slight reference to a possibility of the Black Panther from Marvel, and they portray him as a bad guy, but that's essentially kind of what he is. He wears tribal paint.
Black
he's
Death.
He's a martial artist. He was a black guy. Like it's based loosely.
I was gonna say I kind of see it
But
because
he
I follow
is
the comic.
right. He is kind of a take off of that. The biggest, baddest person on their team
Fucking ridiculous.
is an old lady. They
Old
call her
lady.
Mother Russia.
Mother
Yeah,
Russia.
Mother Russia. Old lady who
She's
looks
a
like she was the
beast.
mom of the Russian boxer from Rocky.
When Frank Miller took Batman under his wing, and they said, "Do something with it." Batman was in gripping times. He was still trying to pull himself out of the 60s. The 70s comics were doing a real good job, but some of the darkness was still lost in translation. We were still buzzed by what happened in the 60s. The Joker was still just barely making it as a bad guy, and then came the return of the Joker, the return of Two-Face, the return of Batman, all in their 60s. The Dark Knight Returns
Okay.
is one of the greatest Batman stories ever told. It was told by Frank Miller. The book is unfucking believable. If you haven't seen it, you have to see it. And there's 2 movies that were produced recently. They're DC animated movies. They follow the comic book almost to a T.
The Dark Knight Returns Part 1 and 2.
Remember the woman, the Russian, that that basically had no shirt on,
Yeah.
was fighting Batman, and the new Robin in that warehouse area was dating the Joker? That's Mother Russia.
I haven't seen the movie yet.
You got it now? You see where she
Yeah,
came
I got it
from?
now, yeah.
That's who that is.
I'll have to sit down and
That
have
is
you
a direct
have you loan
reference
those
to
or
the
something.
1980s Batman.
See, that's pretty cool.
They were hidden all over the movie. I kept picking out references to all
Professor
different kinds of
Gravity?
comic books. Professor
It
Gravity.
was awesome.
I actually think, and I can't prove this 100%, but I think he might have been a slight reference to the Atom. And of course, we know who the Spider-Man reference is, and I'm not 100% happy with it, but there was a Spider-Man
Insect
reference.
Man.
Insect Man
Dude was awesome.
is definitely a reference to
Does not
Yeah,
wear
to
a
Peter
mask.
Palmer.
Yeah, Peter
Oh my
Palmer.
Anybody that knows the typos that happened in the old comics knows what I'm talking about. So
There was a lot of good little references.
Well,
that was where it really did it for me. A lot of the references is what keep me in the movie.
A lot of the
And
humor is
considering,
what
you
kept
know,
me.
it is based on a comic book, I'm pretty sure those references were already in the comic book to begin with.
Every single character is probably taken from some sort of aspect in comics because
Yeah.
the whole idea of it was a comic book influenced society that finally acted out in the real world.
you know, I'm gonna give my thoughts first.
Go ahead.
And despite what the critics gave it, I don't give a damn. I thought it was a good movie. I really did. It was funny.
Damn right.
The comedy is, I think, a little more emphasized than it was in
Yeah.
the first.
You
Now,
know,
the first was funny though, but I think
And I-
this
this
had
one
more
had
laugh out
those-
loud
those
moments.
great punches.
character development. I actually liked it. Showing that they're superheroes, but at the same time, they're having to deal with their secret identity in their real life.
Because I think that's essentially what this movie was just mainly for
Okay,
character development.
Yeah.
What? Okay, a lot of people were expecting. Okay, you've seen Captain America.
Yep.
Yeah.
You've
easily.
seen Batman Begins.
Yep.
You've seen Kick-Ass 1.
Yep.
Yep.
Seen Spider-Man 1.
Yep.
They're origin tales.
Exactly.
They take a character, they develop him into a hero, they show you an event, they create a mythology. The second movie is meant to take those ideas and show just how far you can push that drive.
Exactly.
Spider-Man 2, even without his powers, he needs to stand up, he needs to look Doc Ock in the face, and he needs to know that that's where he's going. Dark Knight, the Joker, the worst adversary he will ever fight. How far can you push Batman?
The new Iron Man movie, same thing.
Yep. Every time you see a second movie, it's meant to take those heroes, put them in the
push
worst
them.
possible situation you can imagine, and see just how much that character can take. Prove their determinations.
New Wolverine.
And a lot of people,
Haven't seen the new Wolverine
a lot of
movie.
people are crying that this movie somehow doesn't stand up to the original, but I don't think that people are realizing that the characters are already established.
Yeah.
All you can do now is show how much they can take and
Before
still
they
be
snap.
who they are.
Yeah. And they're more testing their willpower to be superheroes, essentially,
Right.
because it's a little bit more since they don't have powers.
There's
They're
a
just
lot
normal
more
people,
action
yeah.
emphasis because of that. Because the boundary is already established. Now you just need to show me how far can the boundaries go.
Yeah.
And the second movie does just that. I can't see any reason to complain.
No.
I'm hearing a lot of people that are complaining constantly, and I put my foot down and stand against every single person, every critic that blindsided this movie. First off, it's a comic book movie, okay? It's not fucking American Beauty. So, back off. You didn't go there to see some sort of giant dramatic event that was going to change your fucking life or give you some sort of an epiphany.
You're going
We
to see
knew
some
that we were
ass
gonna laugh.
whooping and some laughs.
We were going to laugh and see probably guns fired, explosions, possibly Hit Girl chopping off limbs. Look, it was in the first movie, we expected it in the second, and we want to see a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like it missed the delivery.
I don't feel ripped off.
I mean, they gave us the action we wanted. They gave us story development, which we honestly wanted.
They gave us
to.
the comedy.
That
The
was
comedy
yeah.
definitely.
And they did
Oh my
And
god.
believe it or not, a lot of people are probably thinking that the comedy element's going to come from Jim Carrey. I don't think it did at all.
No, there was
I almost barely laughed at all. His character was quite serious for
Yeah,
what
he
the
really
movie
was.
He was
You know, he's
super
not- but
serious, but he
I mean,
did have
he-
some
he
quirky
had
moments
some,
that were
yeah.
funny.
But he's done serious roles before. The number 23 is the biggest
No,
example.
I realize that, and I wouldn't fight with that, but I bet a lot of people were thinking that that's where the comedy was going to come from.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They kind of blindside you with that. I think he's the most serious
But I mean, if you
character
think about it, his
in the
character,
whole thing.
honestly, it feels like that whole gun control activist type of character to me. Like it honestly does.
You know,
He
I
has that
really-
feeling.
you know,
I mean, the background for his character, too, which we're not going to go into just
Yeah.
in case of spoilers.
I really was blindsided. I really thought he was going to be funny
Right.
because that's what he is. He's a comedian.
Yeah.
But when he was serious, I'm like, I don't
You
mind
know,
this at all. He can be
There were
serious all he
funny
wants.
parts that had to do with his character
Yeah,
specifically.
he did have some funny moments.
They were funny. It
His
didn't
girl-
come immediately from him, but it was because of stuff he was doing.
To bounce off of Jim Carrey, like, well, we can make the whole thing about Jim Carrey. I'm trying not to do it. So let's fall off of him. He's in the movie. He does his part well. We've said our piece. But I want to talk the reoccurring characters, the development and change, like what you thought you were going to see as opposed to what you did see. That's really where I'm wanting to go.
Yeah.
Like, okay, Kick-Ass. Biggest thing of the whole fucking movie is Kick-Ass. Of course, he was in the first. He is in the second.
Well, of course, the movie's named after him.
Is
Yeah.
development. First off, the suit looks better.
It really does, yeah.
It does
I mean,
look
it
like
still
It's
has
the
that-
same suit, but he fills it out.
Yeah,
That
it
might
still
help.
has
That makes
that
it look
quirky
better.
feel to it. It still
Then
has
the
that.
modifications to the suit that happened during the movie, I like those.
Those are
Yeah.
cool. Those are cool.
Mm-hmm.
But I
Then
almost
again,
felt
he kind
like
of looked more samurai-esque
I
once he
almost
got
felt
done.
like when he showed back up at the start, though. I was like, you're still wearing that? Like where's a stab plate or something? Like
Yeah.
you're gonna die.
He's like,
I'm
I still got those
surprised.
damaged nerves.
Yeah, I was
I'm
gonna say,
good.
he
You
still
know, there
has
is
that
one
whole-
thing that he still hasn't
But he-
learned yet.
How to
The batons
dodge.
he carries.
He needs
Let's
to-
give up with the
Yeah, I was
wooden
gonna say,
baton.
he needs to upgrade a little bit. I think slightly.
Wrap a metal baton or something.
I mean,
you
you
gotta
almost got
cause some
killed
real
in the
damage.
first movie. I mean, come on.
But
You should have learned by now not to take wooden battalions into a fight when people were using like metal bats
Yeah,
and stuff.
exactly.
they evolved
Actually,
the dad a
I
little
think
bit.
one of the guys busted out a rhubarb or a piece of rhubarb because it wasn't a lead pipe. I noticed that.
They advanced the dad. They advanced both dads of the story a little bit, but not nothing that we really need to bring to light.
Yeah.
Just that they're mentioned.
Kick-Ass's dad had a huge part.
Yeah,
A lot bigger than I thought it was.
but
gonna
he's still basically the exact same character. That
But
you've
it was needed in
in the
order
first.
for
He
the
was still
character
that worried
development
dad.
of the movies there.
That's all it was.
The biggest character that got a push, a change, has nothing to do with character development. Has to do with growing the fuck up. Hit Girl is not Hit Girl anymore.
Oh yeah.
No.
It's about time to take it into that Nightwing phase, because Hit Girl is essentially Robin. But Robin grew up and Robin changed, and
Into
Hit Girl,
Nightwing.
I thought it was almost a flaw that they were still using the Hit Girl costume because it looks awkward. She's 15 now. And the actual person, I think, is actually in that age category.
Yeah.
So, like, you're not talking about like this little. She looked like a little 8-year-old girl in the last movie. Now I know she was like 12 or something like that in the last
But
movie.
she pulled off the super little kid thing.
But she looked like a real little kid, so it was really goofy and whatnot. And she had like, it was crazy to see the first movie. But the second movie, it looks really awkward a little bit because the suit is not as compact as it used to be, like with the little dress thing.
Well, I
and
mean,
armor
going
plates
off of
and-
like her story in general, though, and the reason why she has that costume to begin with, and who gave it to her, I kind of understand why.
But she
would
was
keep
definitely
it.
still creating that costume too, because
Well,
there's
yeah.
no
she
way
had to
she
do all the
still fit.
modifications.
Like it was a little weird actually. Like I was waiting for an advancement on the costume. I was waiting for it to change
Well,
like
yeah.
somewhere in the movie.
Well, without spoiler alert type thing happening, it looks like they have the feasibility of maybe doing the third one, or at least a spin-off dealing with her character. With
And
the way
I
they
can
ended
probably
it.
see upgrades from there. But
So you might just see that Nightwing phase.
There's another reference actually moving into Nightwing. They put her on a motorcycle.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
that. Actually,
That's a
I liked
Batman
that
reference.
thing. That thing was fucking sweet.
that really was, yeah.
I had to say, I did like the
And
motorcycle.
did you catch another huge reference? They are the first ever superhero team.
Oh yeah, to the God, where the hell in the States was that? Because we did a podcast type of dealie on that.
No, I'm not talking about them.
Oh, not them.
No, it was a comic book reference, and it was
Oh.
huge.
The
JSA.
Yes, the JSA was the very first ever published superhero team comic book in existence. And they were the first superhero team in the Kick-Ass universe, the real world, and they sat at a round table
Yeah.
and they put that symbol down. Red, white, and blue, the stars,
Yeah.
the symbol of the... That's JSA. That's stolen directly from the
Man, it
comic
made me
book.
feel like I was watching and that part made me feel like it went from a Kick-Ass movie to a JSA movie.
Yeah, it was a JSA story.
freaking DC up with this bitch.
It was the first.
In fact, actually, Frank Miller created the Kick-Ass franchise. Am I correct? Was it Frank Miller or was it another Miller?
No,
No,
I-
his last name's Miller, but I can't. I was just
Then,
researching it today,
Doug?
too.
Who makes
is
Kick-Ass?
that right?
I don't want to go on record saying that,
I'm
though.
gonna
I
be-
know
I'm-
it's the last name.
His last name is Miller. It's not Frank Miller. It's like I can't remember right now off the top of my head. It is a Miller. It's not Frank.
It's Fred Miller.
I was gonna say reading is
It's
you know
Frank's
like
cousin.
reading all the
No.
Q&A sessions with him. He's a cool guy. Like I really like his attitude.
He's fairly down to earth, but that's
Yeah.
because you got to understand that it's really weird. Kick-Ass was okay. It was a decent comic. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But it was not actually popular enough to get the treatment it's getting. It was not one of those comics that like blew off the shelves and took the world by storm. Like you're not talking a #1 property like Spawn or something.
No.
It's amazing that the show has done so remarkably well, and it bolstered his ability. Now he's a bigger name because of this movie, that he's actually able to do Kick-Ass 2, and now
Yeah.
there's another Kick-Ass comic that's hitting the shelves right now for Kick-Ass 3.
And I know at first, like, I was reading the Q&A
See,
session.
that'll
And that's
be
a good thing. I'm happy you
I
have.
actually want to see a third movie.
Yeah, I mean,
If it's as good as this one was, I will go and gladly see that movie.
yeah, and like when I was reading the Q&A sessions, like he honestly wasn't expecting a second movie, but because of how big of a hit the movie was, that they got the funding in order to make a second movie.
He was surprised because,
Yeah.
like I said, his comic wasn't
He
doing
was
the type of...
dumbfounded. He had no idea.
He
it was
didn't
gonna be
expect
that big.
overnight fame like that, and that's kind of what was given to him.
And he deserves it, honestly. Like I think
He
you know,
came up with a great idea,
Yeah.
and he got a team behind him that helped him get what he wanted out, and they did a good job.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
very well
honestly,
done.
who hasn't
And then they
thought
did it
about
a
being
second
a
time,
superhero?
and they did even better. So,
Last
honestly,
character to talk about in development is the motherfucker.
By the way, that is his name. If you missed like all the stuff about who the big villain is, it's the motherfucker.
Red Mist, Chris
Oh,
D'Amico
D'Amico, yep.
Chris D'Amico.
is now known as the motherfucker.
Because of what happened at the end of the first movie.
Best movie name ever.
You know,
Wow.
you want to know
Yeah.
something?
And he was still the only thing he gave a shit about was killing Kick-Ass because he blew up his dad with a fucking
Well,
bazooka.
that bazooka was a continual joke even into the
It's-
second movie.
It's
and
like
to give it credit though, no matter how fucked up this character is, it makes sense for how his character was at the beginning and what happened at the end of the first movie.
It's because of how he was raised.
Yeah,
You gotta
like,
think, he was
honestly,
messed up
I
to begin
saw
with.
that coming. I honestly did.
Everybody
And,
knew he was
yeah,
going to be a bad guy. Everybody knew he was going to
My
be a bad guy.
the
biggest
way
question.
he did it though.
At the end of the first movie, there was no question. If they'd have come up with the second movie and he wouldn't have been in it,
Yeah.
I'd have been fucking outraged.
My biggest question I have is at the end of the first movie, after his dad dies and everything, and he sits in his dad's chair, and he puts that mask on.
And he makes a Joker reference.
Yeah. What happened to that costume?
Can we talk about the costume he wears, please?
We can talk
actually
about
okay.
the
I don't
costume
think we'll give
that
anything
was
to
already
that.
detailed. That costume got thrown out by his mom.
Yeah.
She's
his-
like, I threw that shit out. You don't need to be worried about that. That's why we moved. Blah blah blah.
Yeah,
See,
they.
but the costume he wears in the movies
It is
though,
the
I
best
hope we can find a
costume
picture
ever.
to show. Yeah.
No, we don't even need to see. No, we don't even need to give a picture.
I'm not gonna
Honestly,
show- I'm not gonna
go
show the
see.
picture.
Why?
Go
If
see
they
the.
wanna
No,
see it,
they want to
they
see
need
this.
to
They
go
go
see it.
see the damn movie. You see the badass.
Your reaction is going to be the
The
same as...
costume-
Okay,
It's
yeah, I don't want
ridiculous.
to ruin the reaction.
Okay, I'm not done. No, your reaction is going to be the same as mine. Why? Why?
Because it's the best ever.
No, no.
We are actually running out of time. I wish we had more, but we need to run scores
Oh, wow.
quickly.
Shane,
Oh, wow. How are we going to do this?
out of 5, like always.
Go around out of 5. Would you recommend the movie?
Yes, I'll give it a 4.
4.
I'll give it a 4.
4.
I give it a 4.5. Honestly, I thought it was one hell of a movie and it did what it meant to do.
I can't give it a perfect, but it does set everything up. I'm gonna do a 4, just like, and yeah.
Honestly,
So-
now, if there's not a 5, then I mean, if there's not a number, a Kick-Ass 3, I'll be disappointed because it's setting it up perfectly.
Yes.
Yeah.
The one thing I want to
It'll
say is...
probably go. My rating will go down if there isn't a 3.
And
Well, you
stay
can't change
after
the
the
rating
credits.
after
Well, yeah.
When
Yeah.
you left after
Yeah,
the
stay-
credits, Shane stayed and he's seen something that we missed. There is something after the credits, so don't just leave. Definitely stick around.
That seems to be like a lot of big things that they're doing now with comic movies.
Yes.
They know.
And I
They
mean,
know to set it
reading,
up.
reading the Q&A session, Miller did say that he wasn't, like, the only way he would make a 3 is if he gets the funding from this movie to make a 3. So it's not official.
I don't
So-
know.
It's just like this one.
The critics need to back off because this movie has to do well. We need Kick-Ass 3. This could be a
It'd be
great.
awesome.
This could be a great trilogy of movies. I don't want to see 4, 5, 6, 7. I want to see 3.
Yeah.
Close it off. We've seen them as children. We've seen them as adolescents moving into the adulthood phases of their life. I want to see the adult impact of this story now.
See, and I don't want this to
That's
be
the
hit.
last major phase.
I don't want this
And then,
to be...
if we do a number 4, I want to see retirement.
Yeah.
Sitting at the old folks home going,
No, I don't want to see something that ridiculous, but in their 40s, or like upper 40s, and they're like, this just can't continue. But
kind of
we are...
like Batman when he
before we
gave
end,
up
though, a lot of the
Batman
critics
Beyond.
were trying to hit this with the whole, way too violent for no reason and hitting the gun control thing. So I'm hoping that the media doesn't try this with
They're
that.
going to, but you know what?
That's going to destroy
Fuck
the essence of the movie a lot, I think.
Just hopefully this gets out and around, and we can convince some people to go see this and spread this around. That's just comments in the section below. Let us know what you think, and check out more Chairs episodes.